Welcome everyone to episode 21.
21. Woo! We're of drinking age. Woo!
Yep, podcast is legal.
For
Okay,
everyone, not just our Canadian fans, but our American friends too. Woo!
we'll jump right into it here. We had a crazy trade deadline. People flying all
Holy.
around. So,
It was moves galore. Like nonstop. Trade just this way, that way, this way, and back again. Like it was every which way. It was extremely exciting and probably one of the most entertaining trade deadlines I've seen in a long time. Because usually, like the trades are done like mid-season or like in the weeks leading up to it, and then the actual trade deadline has been slow recently. But this year, no. There are trades being finalized after the trade deadline. For example, like that Toronto Maple Leafs trade, where they brought in at the last second. You know what I'm talking about, the Reese Johnson for future considerations, like minor trade, but it happened more or less after the trade deadline. But they submitted the proposal for it, so it was pretty crazy. Now,
yeah,
where
it's
do you want
definitely
to
been
start?
something.
Yeah, and some big names traded. Another big name traded twice. So we have lots of content coming your way.
Yeah, so Dave, you want to start us off with the first trade?
Sure, Andrew. I can start us off with that first trade. The first big trade is between Tampa Bay Lightning and the Seattle Kraken. Coming to Tampa, I should say back to Tampa. Yanni Gourde, part of those Stanley Cup wins in the back-to-backs. And you have also accompanying with him on that plane ride, Oliver Bjorkstrand and a 2026 fifth-round pick. Going to the Seattle Kraken, Mikey Eyssimont, a 2025 second-round pick, a 2026 first-round pick, and a 2027 first-round pick. Quite the assets flying each way.
Detroit also got a conditional fourth in exchange for retaining some salary.
There you go. Three-way.
Yeah, just for this year on Yanni Gourde. So we'll break this down a little bit. There's a lot of trades to get through, so we won't spend too much time. But basically, the Lightning pay a big price, as they seem to with a lot of their trades, and get Bjorkstrand with term, a familiar player in Gourde who will probably resign. And they're going to push and try and go for another cup, clearly, but we'll see if it's enough.
After what Florida's been doing, I don't know. It's going to be one heck of a second round, more than likely, between those two. And, yeah, especially if Kachuk's back. But this trade. Now, playing in recent years, the Leafs have been playing the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mikey Eyssimont has been on that third/fourth line for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And God, was he a pain to watch. It seems like everybody's just a pain to watch as a Leaf fan in the playoffs playing against you. But Mikey Eyssimont was a very strong puck-winning forward in that series. He's going to be he's still a little bit young, not like just at the start of his prime on average, like a 28-year-old. Yeah, 28 years old, 191 pounds, and he's in his fourth season in the NHL. And yeah, he is a good piece for the depth, but on Tampa, I mean. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what he does in Seattle. But he's also a cornerstone piece that Seattle needs in this one. So,
well, Tampa pays a big price, but they had a huge gap in skill between their top six and bottom six. These guys will help even that out a little bit.
Bjorkstrand for sure, considering he was like in the top 3 on Seattle in scoring.
Yeah, he would have
That's
been about that.
Now that's not anything crazy considering Seattle wasn't exactly a goal scoring
No,
force.
but to add Bjorkstrand, veteran experience, and just a good player,
Mm-hmm.
good forward.
Yep.
But I'm stuck on that return. That's such a good return. I know it was a seller's market this year, but 2 firsts,
2 first-round picks.
like that alone, I'm impressed with. Roster player,
Now, as a
it's
Leaf
pretty
fan, I
good.
was I was really hoping that the Leafs were going to be in on Yanni Gord as like a secondary. Like I was obviously hoping for Ryan O'Reilly, as I've mentioned a couple times. But Yanni Gord would have been one that I would like to see as a Toronto Maple Leaf as well, because I know what he's done with the Tampa Bay Lightning in previous Stanley Cup runs. And yeah, it was an arms race, this one, and clear example with this. Like you got that's probably going to be their third. Like you're going to have Yanni Gord and Oliver Bjorkstrand on your third line playing together.
Well, I can tell you Seattle used Ottawa as leverage. Ottawa was in on Gord, and then not too long after, to the Lightning.
Yep. Now, if I was if I wasn't particularly on the team I'm going to, I'd be looking at Tampa or Florida, simply like partially because obviously they're still good teams. You still have one of the best goalies, nice pop in the back there. Yes, we heard that. Yeah, like if I didn't want to play for Leafs or Sens, like this, yeah, the Panthers or the Lightning would be the team that I'd want to go to. It's nice weather down there. There's no taxes.
Okay,
There,
so
so
let's do grades. What do you grade Tampa?
Tampa, I'll give them because of their return and the bolstering. Like they basically have a second line for a third line now with this. I mean, the first rounds, the 2 first rounds of the second were a pretty penny to pay for them, but honestly, I'd still give them probably a high B plus on this one. It Again, it was a seller's market. Teams were selling
It
high.
was. They fixed their needs. Or, yeah, they fixed them, but they gave up a lot.
I think I
Now,
agree, but I don't know.
so I'm not going to go off the board. I'll probably give them a B here.
The reason why I'm tempted to give them a B plus is simply because there were not a lot of teams that were selling this trade deadline. There's
There's plenty of teams that were selling.
but
It was
not
just
as
everyone was
many.
asking a lot, so not everyone sold.
Everyone's asking a lot because there wasn't as many as there have been in the previous years. Like look at the Eastern Conference. Look at the discrepancy between those wild card spots and the next 3 spots. All season that's been very, very, very tight. So
Okay.
in that case, like there's a lot of teams that were not sure if they are buying or selling. So it would take. That's why it was a seller's market. It would take teams a lot more to coax them out of their top line players.
So what do you give Seattle?
Oh, it has to start with an A for sure.
Plus for me.
Yeah, I'd say
I
an A.
I can't see a situation where you get better assets back for 2 older players, one with an expiring contract and one with 1 year left.
Yep,
Like,
I, I give them an A just because I mean they just got rid of Yanni Gord and Oliver Bjorkstrand, but I
well, they're a
mean they
mid team.
gotta. Yeah, they're not anymore.
They were though. That's the thing.
They
So
were.
they now have the ability to maybe tank a little bit this year and retool. Use what I picture with them. They maybe trade off some other pieces like who's the defenseman that you liked?
Oh,
Alexiak.
Alexiak, yeah.
So you trade off him in the offseason. They already traded Tanev. You package all these assets together and you get yourself a game breaker. You go for someone young
Or yeah,
or
like maybe,
younger. Because
but
Matty Beniers, chances are he bounces back. I don't see him being shit next year too. And they have some good guys in the pipeline. Not a lot, but some. And Shane Wright
yeah,
has been okay. He's bounced back from that terrible start to his career.
yeah, he has. He's not doing bad this year, but I don't know. I don't think they have enough in the pipeline. I think they're going to be using some of these picks to bolster it. They're not going to be a strong team next year. I can't see them making a huge splash in free agency because I mean every team's going to try for sure, but I can't see them making a huge splash just because of the assets they've brought in. Like you said, they might package them or they might use them because like they have the potential to make some really great picks with this.
I don't think they go and swing big in free agency. I think they try and make a trade here. I mean, they made some bad signings. They were bad when they were signed. Like Montour, he's
Mm-hmm.
30, signed for 7 years, it's 7 mil. Like it's not terrible, but it's not great. Chandler Stevenson, same deal.
No, everybody knows Brandon Montour obviously got that contract because he was on the Stanley Cup winning Florida
Yes,
Panthers.
there's that Stanley Cup price, you know,
Yeah,
that always
but
adds some dollars. It is what it is.
yeah, I mean, one thing I really like about Mikey Aizmont is his two-way game as a fourth liner at the price tag of 0.8 million right now. That's pennies next year and the year after. Like it's as for a fourth liner who can still put some pucks in the net, not as often, but he's still a great fourth liner. Maybe a third on a team
Yes.
like Seattle. In he's still relatively young at the age of 26, but yeah, I don't know. I think that piece is a great pickup on the Seattle side.
You have to keep in mind too, they also have Berkeley Caden, kind of a top prospect center.
Agreed.
You know, he's
Agreed.
could come up and they have a lot of good centers, like between Beniers, Wright, him. Stevenson's okay. It's just a bad contract, but we'll see what they do. I'll be interested and keep
For
an eye.
for our viewers who may not know his contract, do you want to explain why Chandler Stevens' contract is not the greatest?
Well, it's he signed till 2031.
2031.
He has a no movement clause. It's 6.25 mil. He is 30. He will be 36 when it's done.
So the end of that contract is gonna be tough because he's like you said gonna be older. But with the cap going up 6 million is not a terrible contract going forward. This
It's
year it's not great for what he is, but if he doesn't tail off, 6 million is not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible.
Yes, it will age better simply because the cap's going up, but it still hurts to have 6 million taken up like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have already spent 13 minutes on this one trade, so we're gonna move
That's
on
okay.
and roll through a few here.
Yeah.
We got a very simple trade. Vinny Desharnais from Pittsburgh to San Jose for a
Came over.
fifth round pick.
So they traded him. So yeah, he came from Vancouver to Pittsburgh, gets flipped for a fifth round pick.
Yep,
Nothing crazy.
simple
Not
as that.
it's yeah.
Penguins aren't making the playoffs. They know it. They found a spot they could flip them. Maybe San Jose needed the defensive depth, so they weren't running AHL players completely.
B
But that's
minus
about it for me.
for me, B minus for Pittsburgh and a B for San Jose. Standard trade.
Yeah, I pretty much agree there. There's not really much of a winner or loser in that.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit of a bigger one and an
Okay.
interesting one. So the Preds acquired Bunting and a fourth from Pittsburgh in exchange for Luke Shen and Tommy Novak.
Yep.
So
Now, everybody knows Luke Shen's comments basically came out and said this team cannot score. And I've never played for a team that can't score like this. So obviously that put a gun to his head, like figuratively speaking. And Trotz was like, "No, get out, get out."
Yeah, pretty much.
That
Um,
that basically sums up this trade. But they're getting
yeah.
a good, well, like not power forward, but a grinder type forward, and he has spunk in Michael Bunting. I mean, he has spunk. So
Well, basically, they get a younger player back and an older defenseman. They did flip Shen to the Jets, but we'll get to that a little later. Um,
mhm.
honestly, I see it as the Pens got younger, so good for them. It cost them Bunting and a fourth. Bunting's injured, but
Yeah, again, nothing
honestly,
spectacular, nothing mind breaking or mind blasting, but yeah, honestly, for me, what are your grades?
I'm gonna go B and B.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Exact same thing.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for that one. Next up, we have the Panthers. This is really a minor trade, getting Nico Sturm and a seventh round pick from San Jose in exchange for a fourth round pick. Good job on San Jose. They got a fourth, help the rebuild, maybe pick someone useful. Nico Sturm is a little bit older. He wasn't going to be there long term. Basically, yeah, they upgraded a seventh to a fourth, and it cost them Nico Sturm.
Yeah,
I'm more than happy with that, and good pickup for Florida. Good depth piece,
yeah.
just
I
fourth
mean,
liner.
yeah, he's middle aged as far as hockey goes. He's a big body. He's a strong fourth liner, and that's basically what Florida was going for on the trade deadline was big bodies to fill out your bottom six. And Nico Sturm is exactly that. It
Yeah,
it's a very Florida pickup in a sense. In a sense, it's very Florida. We're gonna grind your team into the ice, and then when you guys can't stand up anymore, we're gonna put the puck in your net and then scream in your goalie's face.
I'd rate this pretty equal too. I'd give them both B pluses. That's pretty fair, you know.
Yeah, for the Sharks, maybe a B because they gave like yeah, like you said, they upgraded, but it still cost them a pick and a player.
Well, the seventh round pick to a fourth round is great. The chances do go up quite a bit of it becoming an NHL player. And
Um,
Nico Sturm was not sticking around, so
yeah, so it
good deal
yeah.
both ways. Next up, honestly, this one puzzled me. So the Devils acquired Dumoulin from the Ducks in exchange for a prospect and a second. The price, market cost, makes sense, still a little bit high, but do the Devils see themselves going on a deep run without Jack Hughes?
I mean, Jack Hughes is still very young, and he does have that lack of experience of playoff hockey. So
He
it's,
he does, but they don't have Jack Hughes, they don't have Dougie Hamilton, and Jonas Siegenthaler is out too.
I mean, I feel bad for the Devils, honestly, because they have been just decimated by injuries, not just this year, but last year too. Like earlier this year, they had was it Heishier was out for a bit.
Hmm.
So and like last year, they had quite a few injuries. Like they were playing basically their AHL defenseman as like their second pairing D for like a good portion of the series. Like they were just injury riddled last year, and like they're a good team if they stay healthy. And this is just a little bit of an insurance package. They're hoping maybe some of these guys come back for the playoffs. And
Hamilton, maybe. Siegenthaler and Hughes, unlikely.
yeah, but I mean,
Hughes is
yeah,
done for the season, to be clear. Siegenthaler's week to week, so there's hope. But
fair.
it's just,
Week to week is we're shutting them down until the playoffs.
yeah, he's on LTIR, so he'll be out
Yeah,
for a bit.
But
I'd give the edge to the Ducks in this a little bit. I'd probably give them A minus. Give the Devils a B. Like, there's nothing overly
I
outrageous with this trade.
so I like the fact that they picked up a second round pick for Dumoulin on its own. I think is a fairly fair trade. He's an experienced, big bodied defenseman who can who can produce a little bit offensively.
And he's on the last year of his deal. He's 33. He wasn't going to stay with the Ducks most likely because he wants to be in a rebuild when you're 33.
Radko
So,
Gudas.
yeah, because no other team would allow him to be captain.
That was hey. We'll give you a nice little retirement package here, but just can you do us a favor and protect some of our young guys? No problem.
Yeah. Anyway, so
So
those are my grades: A minus, B plus, B. Yeah, we'll do B for the Devils.
Devils, I'd give it B as well, and for the Ducks, I want to give it an A because they got a prospect with that second rounder.
Fair enough.
Something that would have been like someone who would have been gone. Sorry, I almost said something like these guys are just assets. That's one thing we always forget. I feel like a lot of people forget is these are human beings as well. They are assets, but
their whole life is turned upside down in a sense. Okay, I'm moving here. Leave the family behind. You got to go immediately. But our next trade here, Winnipeg gets Chris Dredger in exchange for Capo Kakinen.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find that trade. There's a lot to sort through, and mine might not be in the same order here. You said Dredger for Kapanen.
Yeah, it's a minor goalie swap. Both guys have seen limited NHL time, and probably just a fresh start for both. Simple as that.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with it on either side.
I'd agree that it's probably it's a swap for a change of scenery. Now, like I said a couple times in this podcast, being a goalie, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you're not mentally in the game, you're toast. If you have no confidence or you're shaking a little bit, you're toast. The best goalies are brimming with confidence and swagger. If you don't have those as a goalie and you're like in a bit of a rut, it affects your play significantly. A lot of goaltending is mental. It's being mental as well. Because you're basically just, hey, I'm going to stand here in front of the net while you fire a 98 mile an hour slap shot at me. And I'm going to block it.
Okay, Dave.
So what I'm saying is change of scenery helps them both get back on track for their careers.
Next one, this is just kind of a nice one. Even though I don't like Vegas, Riley Smith goes back to Vegas from New York in exchange for Brendan Brissell and a third-round pick. Good trade by New York. Decent pickup by Vegas. It's kind of fair all around. I'd do a B plus, B plus. Hopefully he can find his way back in Vegas, get back to that form that he had, and help them push for a cup run.
I think he will, because he's out from the scene of the New York Rangers. Because of what they've been, it's
yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot of drama. So
and what we know is what we hear, and that's it. It's like an iceberg. 90% of what's available, 90% of what's going on is not available. That 10% is what we see. So, yeah, players coming out of New York, I'm almost expecting them to take off because
now right after that,
for change of scenery.
The Rangers went and acquired Carson Soucy from the Vancouver Canucks for a third-round pick. So, one pick in, pick out. Simple as that. They get a big defenseman who can solidify their decor.
6'5". Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
He's a big boy.
It's not a bad price to pay. especially considering the price some of the other D-men went for.
No, he's a shutdown defenseman, and I think I like the Rangers' edge on this one because of who they've picked up. He's a strong defenseman. He's not going to put up a lot of points, but this is the type of player that they were hoping to turn Truba into, and they couldn't. Now they've paid a third rounder. You said,
Yep.
and Brandon, yeah, sorry, not Brandon Busan. They paid a
Nope. Third
2025
rounder.
third rounder. Straight up, I like it.
I give it both B pluses. The Canucks got something for someone who no longer really had a proper spot on their lineup, and the Rangers got a decent defenseman out of it. Simple as
Yep,
that.
I'd go for me A minus to the Rangers, B plus for the Duck or Canucks.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, the Minnesota Boston trade next. So Minnesota acquire for Justin Brazeau from the Bruins in exchange for Jacob Luco, a 6th-round pick, and do you know how to say that man's last name properly before I butcher it?
I I'm probably gonna butcher as well. I'm gonna go a shot in the dark. Marat Kuznetsov.
It's not enough. We'll go with
Kuznetsov.
that. People know who we're talking about.
Yeah,
This is
Kuznetsov.
kind of a honestly nothing trade. Not
I
too much going on here.
I don't want to say it's a nothing trade for Minnesota. He's like they picked up a very very strong big right winger for your depth. He's got 20 points this season, 10-10 with again, he's got 20 points with Boston, who has been not strong this year, offensively especially. And
Yeah, he's no,
sorry,
he's not a.
but
He's
he's
a
6'6".
bottom six guy. Simple as that.
He's a bomb six guy and a beast. This is going to be a guy like this is what I call a game's 1, 2, 3 player. Go go out there, soften up your opponents, and that's your job. And he might put a puck in the net while doing it. That's why I think this is a good pickup for the Minnesota Wild because they haven't had that much of the
Well,
center of the forward depth, and they felt that ever since Kaprizov's been out. They felt that in his absence. So I'm
I'll
not
give
saying
them.
he's a replacement, but he's going to be good a good solid insurance plan for the big guys.
I'll give them both Bs. It's nothing spectacular either way. They both get decent assets, going back and forth.
Yeah, for the fact that it's a nothing trade, I'd give Boston a B plus and Minnesota because I mean I like that style of player. I'm very old school in that, but he's a playoff type player, a guy that if he can perform in playoffs, he's a big body. So I like this pickup for them. So I'll give them an A minus.
Okay, fair enough. Now we have a much more exciting trade to move on to. Colorado acquire Brock Nelson and William Dufour from the Islanders in exchange for Callum Ritchie, Oliver Shillington, and a 1st-round pick and a 3rd-round pick.
That
Um,
is a big trade.
it's a big trade both ways.
Brock
So
Nelson was one of the top 10.
they
Wait.
got the best 2C rental left on the market, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna help them push for a cup, and it makes them a very legitimate contender. But on the flip side,
Yep.
the Islanders did great here.
Yes, he did.
Um, if you don't know who Callum Ritchie is, he is like a top 50 prospect. He could literally be better than Nelson in a year or two. Like he's very, very good.
I agreed. Now Brock Nelson is I mean, he's not strong defensively. Like his value is that offensive output. That's it. He's not. He's not going to be a penalty killer, and he's like yeah. I mean, he does have time on ice on the penalty kill, but that's not what Colorado's picking him up for.
No, no.
He's a power play guy.
Good on the Islanders for trading him instead of trying to re-sign him at his age and where they're currently sitting. So, very good move by them.
Yep.
Honestly, I think they knocked it out of the park, especially to get such a good pedigree prospect. I'd say I can't say not an A plus. I'm going to say A plus.
I can agree with that. A plus for Colorado. I'll give it a B plus because of the assets they still had to give up, but I don't think they had a choice because of the
Exactly
price
what
tag
I was
that
going to
other
say.
teams were driving up. So
Their lines are just stacked now up front
yeah,
with that trade. Like they have, this is another trade, but they have a 1-2-3 punch of McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle. It's
just
pretty damn legit.
yeah. Just before we continue, do you see our faces on the screen?
Yes, do you?
I see it at the bottom, but I don't see it on the actual recording.
Well, we've been blank for a while. So, for all our visual listeners, you just had to picture us. For all the audio listeners, well, it doesn't affect you.
I just noticed that. Whoops.
Funny thing is, it still shows on my phone here as two of us, so I didn't see it because I've been flipping through other tabs. They might
Fair.
have some of the best center depth in the league.
Yeah. I mean, Brock Nelson as your no, he's probably going to be the second line center over Millstat, but
Middlestat is gone.
sorry, Millstat. Yeah, sorry, brain fart. Yeah, he's that second line center, but
Okay, well,
yeah,
I agree with you on the B plus. So
yeah.
cost a lot, but it should be worth it. Here's a weird one to follow that trade. Oliver Shylington traded to the Ducks for future considerations. You think they would have at least gotten a pick for him? He's not worth nothing. Like even a seventh, I'd take a seventh.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Maybe I think they were looking at that as, I mean, I'm not sure how many players they have in their reserve, like, because you're allowed 50 contracts. So I think
Yes.
it was just kind of like, hey, we have something bigger coming up. So, what, take them, help
Well,
a
the
brother out.
Islanders didn't do anything else though. That's the thing. They just offloaded him for
I
free.
see that's where my thinking is that they either dumped them off because they just didn't want to take on a salary, or it was they had to make contracts work because they had something else in the work that never came to fruition.
Well, I mean, it's not like he cost that much. He signed with Colorado, I believe, and it wasn't expensive. Yeah, it's 1 mil, and he's done
Yeah,
after this year. Anyways, so I'll give
yeah,
the Ducks the edge. He's not an elite crazy player, but he's still an NHL body. Give them
yep.
B plus, solid trade. Uh, Islanders C minus. Like you got
I'll
nothing.
go D plus. I'll go for a D plus here.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. Here's a more fun one. So the Edmonton Oilers acquired defenseman Jake Wallman from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for a conditional first and Carl Berglund. Great pickup by the Oilers, in my opinion. Really helped solidify that decor.
Mm-hmm.
Wallman is a good player, and as we talked about much earlier in the season, Detroit, for some reason, paid a second to get rid of him because Yzerman just went straight to the Sharks and said, hey, I'll do this. And before he could change his mind, Mike Greer called the trade in. But other GMs called Yzerman after that and basically went, what the hell? We would have paid you for him,
Yeah.
as we've seen here. So I will immediately give the Sharks an A plus on this.
Yeah.
The fact that you
Yep.
got paid a second to take them, I'm including that in this, and then get a conditional first back, knock out of the park. Good job, Mike Greer. On
Yeah.
the Oilers front, a first for a solid top four guy, and another play like that's not bad. I'd
It's
say like
not bad.
B
No,
plus.
I'd say B plus because in previous years, I don't think the price would have been as high for a player like this. But because it was a seller's market, like we've said a couple times, or you said a couple
Yes,
times, that's what makes this trade crazy.
agreed.
So
They do have a pretty good decor now, so
yeah, in previous
good on
years,
them.
I would have given the Oilers probably a B minus for this, but given the market, that's why it's a B plus.
Well, up
So
next we have minor trade of sorts, kind of under the radar, maybe not that minor, but Bavillier from the Pittsburgh Penguins to the Washington Capitals in exchange for a second round pick. Good job by the Pens getting some assets back. Bavillier, good depth pickup. The Caps have been
mhm.
so good. You don't want to mess with it too much. Just that minor addition is a good thing to do. So good on them.
He's been a bit of a journeyman, eh? The
Bavillier?
Beauvillier. So he was with Pittsburgh. He came to Pittsburgh from was it Vancouver, or was it like another one there? But he was drafted by, so he's played for, like, this will be
He's
his
played for
what,
the
15.
Islanders.
He was
He's played
drafted
for
by the Islanders,
Vancouver.
Vancouver, Pittsburgh, Washington.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit of a journeyman all over North America.
I mean, he played in New York for a while. They just kind of gave up on him, and Vancouver tried him, and oh, we forgot a couple teams actually. Forgot he bounced to the Hawks and then the Preds and then Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So a bit of a journeyman there, and
But
he's
honestly, good job in Pittsburgh for getting a second round pick for him. I'll give them the edge in this one. I'll go ahead and give them an A. And like I said, nothing wrong with the trade, but I'll give the Caps a B. It's a little bit high for what he is, unless they picture him doing a lot.
I mean, as a depth forward, you're paying for him to be like, the price here is getting to come to be on your third, fourth line. Obviously, with Pittsburgh, he was a little bit better than that, but I mean, for the
Yeah, I
Pittsburgh
mean, he had
Penguins, what they've been, he's got 13 goals this season.
20 points, so like not bad, not great.
I I think he's, I mean, yeah, nothing insane. It's not like he's scoring 40 goals out of nowhere, but it's not. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's a good addition. In previous years, he's probably worth a fifth, maybe, if you're trading for him. But yeah, because again, market, they weren't looking for a big swing, I guess, with this one. A little bit
Yep.
high. I'd say a third would have been reasonable. But
Okay. Well,
so
now we
I'll give him a
have
B.
one of my favorite trades, especially after the past three games. Ottawa acquires Dylan Cousin and defenseman Dennis Gilbert and a second round pick in exchange for Josh Norris and Jacob Bernard Docker.
I will
Um,
let you take this one because
so I
you're
can
the
go
Sens guy.
a bit more in depth here on Jacob Bernard Docker. Right hand shot, younger D man, but he's never really fit in properly. He's always going to be a seventh or a sixth at best, and he's very replaceable. Love the guy, nice guy, but he's easily replaceable. Josh Norris, this one stunned a little bit. He's kind of a fan favorite, and he has one hell of a 1T on that right hand side, but he's injury prone like crazy. It's hard to get through a season without him sitting out for 20 games, and he's getting paid 7.95 mil. So in exchange, Ottawa gets a center who's 2 years younger, a right-hand shot, and $1 million less contract signed for the same amount of time, a good depth defenseman to help replace Jacob Bernard-Docker, and a second-round pick on top of that. Very good. Dylan Cousins has 3 points through his first 3 games, 1 assist, 1 game-winning goal, and 1 lead extending goal tonight to give Ottawa a 4-2 lead in the third. And it was an absolute snipe bar down.
So you're saying he's been an impact player for them
immediately. Immediately, yes.
Now, there was the interview that I saw. I mean, I'm sure most of us have seen with, what's his name? Brady Tkachuk, where he kind of melted down a little bit, couldn't get through.
Well, fun fact, Josh Norris and Brady Tkachuk have been best friends for years, far before they were in the NHL. It was just fate that allowed them to play together on the Sens. So it's understandably tough for Brady to lose his best friend as a teammate, and knowing that, you know, he won't be able to play with him for a little time. But he's in a hockey guy. He knows this is business. You know, he came out after the win, the game later, and just, he was lost for words. The crowd was roaring. He just was in awe of how much support there was for him with the fans cheering the team on. So he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. Now,
I'm happy with the trade.
One question I have for you, because the impact that Josh Norris had on this team, not just with the team, but also the fact that, like you said, him and Brady Tkachuk are best friends. Do you think that either maybe pinches his arm or Josh Norris' arm to come back to Ottawa in that sense? Or do you think this might put Tkachuk at risk for signing elsewhere when he's able to?
I think neither. I don't think Norris will come back, but I mean, his contract's not up for a while. And I don't think Brady is going anywhere. He loves the city. He kind of made that clear in a couple interviews since, just how much that he appreciates the fans. And, you know, he's a true leader. He said, we're going to make the playoffs, you know. So I'm not worried about Brady leaving in the slightest. He's welcomed Dylan Cousins in. You know, it hasn't been, oh, you're the guy that's here because Josh left. You're replacing him. No, it's been full welcome. When Cousins scored his first goal, Brady went up to him. I was just like, fuck yeah, and, you know, very excited. So I'm happy with it. I give Ottawa, I'm trying to be unbiased here. It's going to be hard. It's kind of what happens after this, how the players pan out, but I'll say an A-.
I can agree with, especially with the Bernard-Docker. You're kind of offloading him at this point, in a sense, because he hasn't stepped in to that position. Kind of like
he's been beat out by a free agent signing in Nicholas Montempallo, who played for Finland's national team, and Montempallo's just been stud on that third pair. So I don't think Bernard-Docker had a spot.
It's like you said, that's one of the issues with teams that are really developing their talent. And I'm not saying they're in a rebuild because they've been a lot better than I expected them to be this year, in fairness. You have a lot of players that you expected to be a top prospect, expected to be an impact player. In Bernard-Docker's, like in his situation, you're kind of hoping he steps into a second pairing defenseman.
Exactly. That was my hope for him.
And that's the thing with rebuilds. You grab as much as you possibly can, bring in all the players. Hopefully, some of them pan out, and then you make tweaks later. That's what
So
this is the back end of that. You know what? He's not panning out. Maybe he could use a change of scenery, but we don't necessarily want him anymore because he hasn't been what we expect him to be or hoped. So best of
exactly.
luck to you. I hope you find your way. You're going to get some ice time with Buffalo because they're a dumpster fire.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll note that that second round pick is Buffalo's own, which will basically be a pretty late first because of how bad Buffalo is. Um,
Yep.
so I'm happy with that. I'm very happy. I'll give
I agree.
Buffalo. Honestly, it's a little bit confusing on Buffalo's part. I don't fully know what they saw. Like, I want to give them a B minus because Norris is injury prone. Dylan Cousins is he doesn't get injured. He hasn't been
Yeah.
performing in Buffalo, or he wasn't performing. So maybe they thought Norris would do better. Um,
I'm going
if
to be a
that
little bit
second
more
round pick wasn't in there, it'd be different. But I'm gonna say B minus.
I'm going to be a little bit more critical than that because what are you doing, Buffalo? Are you rebuilding or are you pushing? What are you doing? Like,
I'm gonna call
you're
this a
trading
flip.
around. Yeah, but like you're trading away your draft picks, including like a second rounder. Now it's not for until next draft season, but they're not going to be anywhere better. They're not going to be better than they are this year unless they're expecting to make a huge splash in free agency.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
But like, the
Yeah,
answer is
maybe
in
I was
this
a little bit
room.
too nice. Maybe I'll change that to a C plus. You're making good points.
I'm giving it a C,
Okay.
because the answer is in this room, but the person saying that is asking or is raising many more questions than what the team was expecting. The answer is in this room, except we're going to trade this room for absolutely nothing. Well, not nothing, but like, are you trying to
You
say
good?
what is that?
It's a humidifier. I just wanted to see how long it would take you to notice.
I was watching it and it honestly distracted me a bit. I was like, what the
It's like,
fuck?
is Andrew on fire?
No, I was just like, is he like saying I'm getting hot headed or something? Like I can see the
Yeah,
steam
we have
coming out of your
special
ears.
effects now.
Yeah, look at this. So we have the money for this podcast to be able to go and spend money on things.
Anyway, so
But
you have
yeah,
anything else to say on that trade?
I just my thought on this is, what is the GM's thought? Like, what are they doing?
It's
There's
Buffalo.
You're trading for a good centerman who's in, like you said, injury prone, a defenseman that isn't panning out, and you're giving up a second round pick. They could have
Yes.
got so much more. Like, I feel like they could have got way more for Dylan Cousins than what they got.
Possibly. There was talk of a Pedersen Cousins swap with another piece in there for Vancouver. So,
I think it's an air ball for me.
well, they'll have Norris locked up at 7.95 until 2030. And Bernard Docker's an RFA this year. He's 24. So it is what it is for them. But moving on.
I'm gonna pull up a little video. Like, you announce the next trade, we'll backtrack a little bit, but this is kind
Okay.
of what my
So
thoughts on this are.
LA Kings acquired forward Andre Kuzmenko and a seventh in exchange for a third to Philly.
Exchange for a third to Philly.
I don't mind it. Philly got him earlier this year. They
I
didn't plan on re-signing him. Why not? You turned a seventh into a third.
Fair. I don't mind it. I mean, Kuzmenko wasn't doing well for the Flames, and he hasn't really picked it up for. There he goes again with the steam. He hasn't
Yeah,
really picked it up again for Philadelphia. And you brought, I mean, part of the reason why you bring in a guy like Kuzmenko, if you're Philadelphia, is to play alongside of Mitchkov in hopes that he
exactly.
picks it up. But he hasn't. He hasn't picked it up. And it's kind of like, okay, like we're moving on from this guy because we know what his ceiling is, but he's more along the floor on this one.
I'll give
So
it.
so
So you
for
go. What do
me,
you think it's
it's
worth?
lower because if you're factoring in the previous trade that resulted in this situation, I'll give it a B minus for Philadelphia because they took a swing and it didn't work out.
I mean, it wasn't bad. He had 5 points in 7 games as a Flyer. I just think the Flyers don't see themselves making the playoffs, so they decided to sell.
That's fair. But what you gave for him to the Calgary Flames, that's where my issue kind of lies with this. For this trade specifically, I'll give him a B. But factoring in the rest of that, I'll give him a B minus on that. Now
Okay, fair enough.
this now I'm pulling it up here. This is kind of what the thought that came to my mind when I thought of the trade for the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay, throw it up on screen.
It's an old movie quote, it's an old movie clip, and just because of the confusion and the like I said, it's an air ball. This is where I think this trade tells me sorry, what I'm saying is this is basically sums up the trade for the Buffalo Sabres. Right. You should be able to see my screen soon. Hold on, my computer is experiencing technical difficulties. This isn't working out.
Okay, well, Dave deals with technical issues. Our next trade here, the Jets acquired Luke Shen in exchange from the Penguins in exchange for a second and a fourth.
For second and fourth, Luke Shen.
Yeah, um, I think he's a good pickup. He replaces Logan Stanley on the back end, who's been having a rough year with penalties. He has some of the most penalty minutes per game in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
So, better vet on the back end. Maybe a little bit of a high price for what Shen is, but still not bad. And putting it in context with the rest of the D-man market on this trade deadline, I am happy with it for the Jets. And I'm going to go with the thought of, it's not broken. Don't try and fix it. Don't add too much. And that's what they hit this deadline with. And if you're a Jets fan, I'd be happy. Add some minor pieces to help solidify the team, but don't add anything too big to mess up that chemistry.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add to that. I think you hit the nail on the head right there.
I'll do an A minus for Pittsburgh because, they just got Shen and flipped him for a second and a fourth, meaning they basically got
Mm-hmm.
a second and a fourth and Novak in exchange for Bunting, which I'd be happy with. And for the Jets, well, it's a little bit expensive. It's not as expensive as some D-men on the market, so I'll give them a B plus, and it does help solidify that core with veteran presence and experience.
Yep, completely agree.
Okay, so next up we have the Wings acquiring Peter Mrazek and Craig Smith from the Hawks in exchange for forward Joe Veleno.
Joe
Um,
Veleno.
so Mrazek to the Wings again. It helps their goaltending. He is a decent goalie for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
they have Sebastian Casa in the pipeline, so I don't know what they're thinking there. Craig Smith, sure, whatever. He's not great at this point in his career, but no, it's a body for them. And I think they just given up on Joe Veleno. Like maybe
Yeah,
they want more of a 1-2 tandem for next year, and that's the thought. But like Veleno's understandably, I mean, they given up because he's 25. So he is what he is at this point. He had 10 points in 56 games this year. I
10
can't really
points.
fault him too much for this. I think it's a trade that just kind of made sense both ways.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Wings definitely needed goaltending help, and now they have it. And it gives the Hawks a middle. Oh, did we lose Dave? Well, we have lost Dave, but it gives the Hawks a middle-aged 25-year-old center, just a good depth piece, and he's not crazy expensive, so that's okay. And Craig Smith was really nothing, not too much going on there, but we'll move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets acquiring Luke Kunin from the Sharks in exchange for a fourth. I think it's a smart trade by the Jackets not to go too crazy and spend too much just in case they don't make the playoffs. And a fourth round pick for Kunin, it's just kind of good both ways. So, kind of a B plus sort of deal. As long as the Columbus forwards can stay healthy, it should work out. They should be able to push in and squeak into the playoffs. And once again, San Jose's rebuilding, so a fourth round pick to add to that pile of assets, not bad. Not bad at all. Let's just check in with Dave. Oh, he says it crashed. He's coming back. We'll see if he can figure out how to get back on his own. You know what? We'll wait for the Wadden trade because I'll feel bad. So let's do Brandon Tanev from the Kraken to the Winnipeg Jets for a second round pick. I think it's a great pickup. Tanev's a veteran winger, fair cost. And like I said before, you don't mess with a team that good. You don't want to change too much, mess up the chemistry. So just good on them. And Dave might need some help, so take a little short break here. You guys just hang on. Okay, thank you for holding on there. So Dave, I skipped a few trades ahead and just did the minor ones. We are now at the one that I saved for you, the Scott Laughton trade. So, like you let me take the Suns one, I'll let you take a run at this one. Tell me what you
Okay.
think.
All right, so I'm just pulling it up again because my laptop decided to just completely crash when I was trying
I'll
to
read it
share a
out
fun
for you.
video.
I'll read it out.
So
So
yeah,
Toronto gets
I'm
Scott
I'm
Laughton,
getting here.
a fourth and a sixth in exchange for forward Nikita Grabenkin and a first round pick in the 2027
First
draft.
round pick in the 27 draft. So I like Scott Laughton. The rumors were that the Leafs were heavily into him.
one other detail. He's retained, so his contract it's very cheap. I think
Yeah,
it's like 1.15 or
yeah,
1.5.
yeah. He's 50% retained. So what Scott Lawton is, he's a third liner. He's for what they gave up and what they got. I think it's a very fair trade both ways. The first piece I'm going to speak to is Nikita Grabenkin. I'm going to save the Scott Lawton piece for a second. Nikita Grabenkin. I liked him a lot in his little cup of tea that he played with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, in one of his first games, the Leafs were winning the game. It was like 2 seconds left behind the opponent's net, and he just turns and just decks a guy for no reason. Like he had the puck, he just lays him out. And when asked about that by the reporters after the game, like, "Hey, why'd you hit him?" I hit you, you hit me. It's NHL. It's business.
Yeah, he
And
definitely has some entertainment value there.
yeah, so in that, like, he very, very quickly became a fan favorite. And I've been seeing like TikToks and Facebook Reels and all kinds of videos about like we will miss you, Grabankin. And then that there's that other interview that he had earlier in the season. So what do you think will keep you in the lineup? Fork check, back check, paycheck. And then he just starts laughing. Like he obviously he's fresh to Canada, doesn't know a lot of English, and just knowing that he's right in there. He's obviously a very strong locker room guy, like very well liked by the fans and players alike. And I think he's going to be a strong player for the Philadelphia Flyers in the sense of bringing back the Broad Street Bullies, where he's going to be a third line grinder. And in that, I think that's what he is. But I think he's also going to be a fan favorite. Like I feel like he fits with what the Flyers are trying to build.
Yeah, I could see that. I think it's a good pickup. Um,
And and on the flip side, you have the Russian factor. Matvey Michkov. He obviously is again same situation, very new to speaking English. So it was the same kind of reason they brought in Kuzmenko because him and Michkov were friends way back when, and they've played together previously, but they've since shipped him out. You bring in Grabankin because of the Russian factor, because of that language barrier. So in that sense, I think it's a really strong fit for Philadelphia for what he is. And honestly, I know you said I overvalue my players, but I like them a lot. So in that sense, it kind of sucks to see him go because of the entertainment, like because he's my type of player where he's just a game seven and he just hits. He likes to grind it out. He's a tougher type player, but also like the fan favorite value. That's the piece
okay.
that I'm gonna miss when he goes. And again, it was very short lived. I think the Philadelphia Flyers fans are gonna love him.
Okay, so fair enough. What do you grade Toronto on this trade
The retention is great,
for this year and next,
and
to be
next year,
clear?
yep, the retention is great. He's a depth center, which is what they needed. So for what they gave up, again, I don't think Scott Lawton fetches a pro a like a bottom six. I don't think he fetches a bottom six forward like in a future bottom six forward in a first round pick in previous years. But it's a seller's market. I don't think he's the player that the Leafs were going after initially. I think, I mean, Ryan O'Reilly rejected a trade to Toronto and and Ottawa, from what I've heard. So
I don't know if you rejected it to Ottawa or if there was just issues with how much Ottawa wanted to pay for him.
fair. I've heard both sides of that, and but I know he full on rejected a trade to Toronto. And what are you doing, Barry Trotz? He doesn't have a no trade clause.
Well,
So, in that sense, Scott Lawton, I like him. I think he's he's a physical third line center, which is what the Leafs have picked up. And so for the value of what he brings as well as the retention, I think it's a fair trade going both ways given the market. But the only issue that I have with this is I don't think he's the player that the Leafs needed, especially when you look at what Florida's done, what Tampa's done. It wasn't a big enough splash for what has been especially been done in their division. So
Okay.
I like it for what they trade for, but it's not going to help them win a cup, and they're not going to get out of the second if they make it out of the first. They have to win the division to have a chance. But even then, you can still play against Tampa. You can still play against Florida because they don't have Kachuk. Maybe they fall off a little bit and reach a. I don't think they're going to reach a wild card, but yeah, I have less confidence going into this playoffs than I did last year.
Okay. Well, um, what grade do you give Toronto? Because that was the initial question.
The initial question: what grade? I'll give them a B because of like what they gave up, given the market and what they got back. I'll give them a B. I'll give Philadelphia the edge on this one because, it's conditional. I don't think we mentioned that. The pick is conditional, top 10 protected.
Yeah.
Now, does that piece signify to me that, you know what, maybe they don't have hopes of re-signing Marner and Tavares or re-signing either one of them in the offseason? So, you know what, if they don't re-sign both those guys, they're going to fall off. So that speaks confidence, but I think that's just a standard issued first round pick conditions. They've been burned like that in the past, so like they basically set the market on that in the sense that hey, we're going to trade for Phil Kessel and we're going to give you basically the picks that got Dougie Hamilton, Tyler Seguin. So because of that trade, there's a lot of these conditions being thrown out there, but if you're the Philadelphia Flyers, you just brought in a future fan favorite, third line grinder, and a first round pick, like a lower end first round pick.
Okay. Well, I'll wrap it up here for us with my grades of this trade. It's close. The value that you get in Scott Laughton as a third line center for 1.5 mil or so for the rest of the season and next year is really, really good. And you did get a fourth and a sixth back too.
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it a B plus for the Leafs and A minus for the Flyers. Like it's good value both ways.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fair. It's just for me, it's not the splash they needed. They needed a bigger splash.
I disagree, but we will save that for next episode because we do have another Leafs trade to get into for that one. We'll do the 16 or so remaining trades probably Thursday night. So whenever you guys are listening to this, it will be posted probably Wednesday afternoon. So thank you all for listening. Tune in next episode to continue the trade deadline analysis.
Like, share, subscribe, play us at your parties, play us at work if you're just sitting there doing some work and number crunching, or just
play us whenever is what Dave's trying to say. Yeah. Whenever, wherever, give us a listen.
Yeah, and comment. We haven't had any comments yet. We would love to see your comments, and we would love whether if it's just making fun of me because my hair looks wonky today, or you just want to say something that's really funny to get a little bit of a chuckle, or you think you disagree with something going on with what we're saying. Anything, we want to see it. We welcome it. Get her done.
Have a good night, guys.